as you start to settle in this moment, how do you feel? What words come to mind? What emotions? Inspired? Yeah. Accepted. That's great. Yeah, that'll get you pumped. Anyone else? What's it? Grateful. These are great. These are good emotions, good feelings. In the right place. Yes. Support. Okay. Rejuvenated. Very nice. Physically, that's an important distinction. Physically exhausted. Yeah. But spiritually rejuvenated. That's great. Anybody else? Anyone else want to? More hopeful than you were? Yeah. That's great. It's a good way to be feeling, you know, because sometimes learning a lot of the information that we have to learn as activists can feel depleting. And I think when we had our initial mental health discussion at the start of this conference, there was a lot more of those anxiety emotions. And now kind of having worked together and sensed that community, it's inspiring to hear that people are starting to feel more hopeful, ready to kind of tackle the next wave of policy or programs, or, you know, however we do our work as activists. So yeah, that's great. Good to hear. And just to introduce myself a little bit, in case you don't know me, or in case you do, maybe I've changed. That's always good, I think, but, you know, learning to approach everybody with beginner's mind and allowing people that opportunity to change and evolve, as, you know, instead of putting them in labels or expecting, you know, certain things out of the people in your lives. So I'm a lover of all things in the natural world. I think, like many of us here, that's kind of what brings us to work with the environment. And personally, you know, in around the water is where I feel most like myself. But I also have that same sensation when I'm in a forest and really surrounded by ferns and a lot of greenery. I enjoy expressing my creativity through poetry and writing, through singing and dancing. And I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunities I've had in my life to travel and the people that have been able to support me. And I'll show you a picture of them. A couple of people that are really important in my life next. And typically, I always have my reusable water bottle on me, which I love, and I usually carry around a journal and a book. So these are my soul companions, I like to call them. So this is my dog, Mona, and my husband, Sean. And I put them up here because I think it's really important for all of us to think about who supports us as activists in this work. So take a minute right now and just kind of go inward a little bit and think about, who do you bring with you, either today in person or today in spirit and within yourself, who really helps you stay grounded and stable in the work that we do. Just try to imagine that person with you now. Or people or animals. And sense what happens to your body too when you do think of that person. Do you feel any relaxing, any sense of relief, sense of love and appreciation? So just to know a little bit about my background and kind of why I'm up here talking about this today. This is more of my professional experience. So as many of you may know, I most recently worked at the Surfrider Foundation as the plastic pollution manager. And I've recently left to pursue a degree in psychology. As you can also tell, I've got sort of scattered experiences in the realms of communications and working with youth. So the director of youth initiatives, I was coordinating the World Ocean States Advisory Council. The Alan Alda Center is an amazing resource for communicating science in really unique ways involving, if you know Alan Alda, he's an actor. So it involved a lot of improvisation and getting scientists to stand up and do all these like crazy, goofy things, and just allowing us to kind of break down the way we talk about science in a way that anybody of the general public can really get on board. So learned a lot of great skills in that position and by taking classes with them. I've got outreach development, communications experience, and Aqua Kids is kind of a combination of my love for the environment and being able to work towards conservation, but it also really utilized a lot of communication skills for me. And then some of my educational experience, again, I'm just now starting a program at Seattle University in existential psychology. So it's quite well suited for the work we do in the environment. Obviously, climate change doesn't get quite more existential than that. And then I also have a master's in marine conservation and policy. And my minor was in public relations. So again, it's that blending of the communications. I minored in psychology, so kind of knew I was gonna come back to that at some point. And then I volunteered at Hospice Center and I'm a crisis counselor at the crisis text line. And then I just put this up here to show, you know, the different areas and regions that I've been exposed to and sort of the diversity of people that I've gotten to know by living in all these different places, the Northeast, and then, you know, Long Island, which is kind of its own beast in itself, and then coming to California for 4 years, and now being up in Seattle. So really, again, grateful to have been able to travel like that and live in these different places and, yeah, be exposed to different ways of life and understanding how different people move about their own lived experiences. So I do like to discuss my own mental health issues because I think destigmatizing the conversation around mental health is so important. A lot of people don't get help that they need because it's such a stigmatized topic. So me personally, I've struggled with really severe mental illness for almost 20 years of my life. And I continue to need to be really mindful of my triggers and be prepared with a safety plan should I notice moments of relapse. I also could not find relief through traditional therapy as hard as I tried. So I had to kind of take it upon myself to find my own means of healing and find my own journey through it. And for me, I really started to see some relief when I was practicing mindfulness and meditation. And the more I regularly built these into my daily routine, the more at peace I began to feel within myself. And I think just being hyper aware of mental health allowed me to start to notice in my colleagues and in a lot of our student leaders that there is a suffering that's happening. And I think we talked about it's not necessarily something you have to be diagnosed with. You don't have to have an illness. Just living in our world today is bound to bring up some anxiety within you. So I was noticing that, and as much as I really loved the work that I was doing, it was making me very prone to panic attacks, just having this overwhelming sense of, you know, what's going on and the battle that we have ahead of us, what it seemed like, you know, was constantly in fight or flight. So really hard to turn that off sometimes. And I decided to step away from direct activism work, at least for now, in order to learn more about psychology and how this may play a role in supporting activists. But beyond that, even shifting the universal consciousness of humanity to restore our lost connection with the earth and ourselves. Because I truly believe, you know, and we all know that a lot of what we're dealing with is human caused. The problems we're up against are things that humans have done and continue to do to our planet. And so I believe that we need to understand people better. We need to connect to people better. And if we can really, you know, approach this from a more psychological perspective, we might actually be able to work towards that behavioral change without needing to force people into it. So that's what I'm going for. That's what I'm trying. All right. So some of you, if you've done my talks before. We're going to do a visualization that's pretty similar. And if you have a place in mind already that you go to relax, a place in nature, something that if you've done this exercise before, I encourage you to, try to add and make it unique each time you practice it. And, I think this exercise in particular helps me get grounded, and it helps to release those racing thoughts that might be happening after, a really powerful conference like this. But I want you to go ahead and just start by stretching out a bit, because our bodies and minds are just interconnected in so many ways. And we hold a lot of that stress and tension, like in our shoulders and our backs. So just, stand up, make space if you need to. And wherever you're feeling tension, tightness, just try to work it out a little bit. The more loose and relaxed you can get your body, the more deeper you'll be able to go into this sort of visualization. And just as you're doing this, think about yourself as an energetic being, which we are. We're all made of energy. And this can get stuck if we don't allow it to flow freely through us. And sometimes this can actually create a lot of chronic pain and, really built-in physical issues within our bodies. When you're feeling nice and loose, no rush, just start to find a comfortable place to settle. So this can be grab a chair if that's more comfortable for you. You can sit on the floor, wherever you think. And sometimes people like to do this standing too, just however is going to help you really settle into your body. Think about trying to keep your back as straight as possible. You want to keep that chakra system open to allow that energy flow through your body, through your back. Sometimes for me, thinking about your hand placements, whether you want them sort of chest and stomach, can be a very grounding position, or just flat on your legs, wherever is comfortable. I see people are already closing their eyes. That's great. If you're comfortable to close your eyes, go ahead and do that now, or just turn your gaze down to the floor. And just start to imagine a place in nature, either made up or real, where you feel safe and whole. Take slow, deliberate breaths as you start to bring this place into focus. And since we primarily use our senses to explore reality, we're going to walk through each one to help bring this place to life for you. And let's start with what you see. What plants or animals are living in your place? What are the shapes and colors that surround you? Do you see any movement, or is it still? How bright or dark is it? And in your mind, slowly scan all around you and try to bring in as much detail as you can. Next, we'll focus on sounds. And also an important meditation tip is to not fight any sounds that might be in your immediate vicinity, even if they don't necessarily fit in this place that you're imagining. Just accept them, allow them to happen, and then try to move and shift your focus to the sounds that you would hear in this place in nature. This could be the sound of birds, insects. Is there running water or the sound of a wave crashing? Can you hear the wind rustle through the trees, or is it completely quiet? Now let's start to shift to smell. Do you smell pine, salty sea air, wildflowers, or the smell of fresh dirt? Take a few deep breaths in your nose and out your mouth and really focus on bringing those smells to life. And let's move on to the sense of touch now. What do things feel like in your place? Are you in water? Are you on sand, in the dirt, or on a smooth stone? What do these surfaces feel like? Imagine the textures and the temperature around you. Can you feel a breeze blowing past you or the sun on your skin? And finally, we'll move on to spirit. So this is the emotion, the life force, and the vibration of this place. Can you sense the serenity, the calm, the life all around and within you? Feel the love that you have for this place and the love that it returns to you. Now I want to give you just a moment or two of silence so that we can put all of these sensations together and sit fully immersed in your place with peace and love in your heart. You can slowly start to wiggle fingers and toes, and when you're ready, gently open your eyes. I want to thank you all for doing that with me. I know it can be a little uncomfortable at first to like all be in silence together, but I think those moments are really important. And as much as you can build silence and this type of practice into your everyday, it will help you start to come home to yourself more often and approach this work from that deep place of love and appreciation that I think we all are called to. Okay, go ahead and get seated again, or stay on the ground if you're comfortable there. It's all good. And drink water. Yes, water is so good for us. We are mostly water, so make sure you stay hydrated. Again, it's a combination of taking care of yourself physically and mentally and really finding that intersection between them that's going to help you really be most well in your life. And I'm going to try something a little different for our discussion, thinking about mental health and the work we do as activists and really understanding ourselves. For me, life is energy, and this is how I kind of move about my day, and really recognizing that we are all energy, everything we interact with, and this is happening at multiple levels. So, I mean, thinking about it from an elemental perspective, we actually make up the elements of earth, water, air, fire, and spirit within our bodies. It is contained. And when you think about yourself in this way, it's pretty straightforward that we are one with nature. We actually get our energy from the sun, most directly through eating plants. And so it's just kind of a nice reminder sometimes to think about that. And you know, in the digital world and when we live so much in our minds, it's easy to forget, you know, what we actually are here on this planet. And then at the quantum level, all things are fundamentally made up of energy. Energy is what holds us together, and it is the universal connector between all things. So although it might feel like there's space between us, our energy radiates out, and we also are, sort of carrying and sensing each other's energies. Sometimes you just happen to know that a good friend or someone in your life is how they're feeling before you even talk to them, and that's because you're sensing that energy that they're bringing to the room. And of course, there's chemical hormones and things like that that also come into play in how we recognize each other, and even just what your body is telling people. So thinking about all these ways that we do communicate and connect with each other. And then if we think about this from an energetic perspective, feeling drained, literally, makes a lot of sense when we do get caught up in our minds, when we do feel disconnected from our true nature of who we are. We do feel drained. And sometimes when we're activists like this, we can put more into it than we actually have, stored up within us. And we're depleting our energy sources. And this can also just be, overstimulation or the manipulation that a lot of us are bombarded with on a regular basis. So false narratives being things like, consumerism and ways that we feel like we have to, purchase things or live our lives in a certain way in order to be accepted in our society and to feel whole. So being more mindful of the types of messages that you allow to come into your whether it's through emails or social media, or even the conversations that you have throughout the day, those can all drain us. But thankfully, there are a lot of ways that we can work to better align our energy, and really thinking about this in a balance. So we want to keep ourselves energetically balanced, and this involves, again, a lot of physical components like eating good food and drinking enough water. It's also the mental components like meditation that helps to quiet those racing thoughts and allow us to sort of view our thoughts as not part of us. They don't define us, even though a lot of times we just take our thoughts for granted and we accept that that's who we are. Taking a second to step back and really, why am I thinking that way? Is that true? And is that healthy? Is that a healthy thought to have? Education, I put up here because I believe learning and finding ways to be always learning in our lives, whether through reading books or taking classes, really helps keep us well. And then the social versus me time, making sure that you've got a balance of socializing with, again, people that make you feel good, people that help lift you up and fill you up, but also not discrediting the time that you have to be just with yourself. That's when you're allowed to really turn off the group think. You can really get in tune with who you are as a person. And again, we're always changing, and allow yourself that flexibility to change at any moment in your life. And that's some of the deepest lessons I've learned have been those times where I've spent in isolation for even 24 hours, which might sound like a lot of time to not communicate with people. But I mean, whenever you get these opportunities to really step away and, get to know yourself, check in with yourself, so important. And again, that kind of comes down to your intuition. I think we let a lot of people around us influence what we think. We obviously let the media influence what we think, and we've lost touch with our intuition and just getting to, believe in our own bodies and our own minds. And leading with love. I think this is a really critical one for working as an activist. I know when I started working in this space, I was bringing a lot of anger. I was bringing a lot of anger at people. Again, we've talked about this, a lot of these are human created problems. And that was fueling my passion for this work, but it was doing it in a way that was just leading to burnout. And there's already enough fear and hate in our world today that if we actually choose to show up and show others the way with love and acceptance, people are naturally going to want to fall into that rhythm. They're going to want to join this community because they feel like you all, have opened this conversation with these feelings of acceptance and love and unity. And there's also a great power and strength in your heart. And sometimes I think, you know, we feel like it is a vulnerability, is a weakness. You know, that we will get trampled if we're out there, you know, not being angry and not meeting the industry with that same level of fiery, you know, hate and like it's a fight. But it's actually much more powerful if you actually can come to this work from a place of love and, you know, bringing your highest self to this work. You can leave all that behind. That's low frequency energy that the industry is working with right now. And we can raise our vibration and we can just naturally rise above that without needing to get caught up in that battle. And then filling up your cup. So, you know, this is making time for those things that do energize your soul. Again, we talked about surrounding yourself with people, but also having that quiet reflection time to really check in with yourself. So it's really, again, your intuition, getting in touch with your body. You will start to notice when you're feeling drained. I'm sure a lot of you already have that ability to be like, I need to recharge, and then really prioritize it. Don't just recognize it and go on with your day and be like, well, I'm going to go until I'm exhausted and I literally can't work anymore because I love what I'm doing. Take that time to step back, because when you do that, you're actually going to be more productive and you're going to be able to get your work done in a place that's more meaningful if you've allowed yourself time to step back, fill your cup back up, and then come back into that work setting. And I just put together a few different bullet points of things that I feel like in my life have been really helpful tips for learning to live with more resilience. So the first one I have is to reduce distractions and tune out that group think in order to hear your inner voice. The next one is to be careful what stories you tell yourself because they become your reality. The next is to forgive the past, accept the present, and hope for the future. And this next one was a difficult lesson for me, but you must love yourself first. And then finally, to live in the present, bring presence into your everyday life. And for me, a helpful mantra was just be here and now. And I'm sure, you know, you'll come up with your own mantras. You may already have your own, that it's at times throughout the day when things start to feel chaotic, when you start to lose your way, have that mantra to come back to resettle yourself. Okay, so I just want to mostly spend the rest of the time having all of you get together and talk about what does self-care mean to you? So what are the ways that you fill up your cup? What are the ways that you're able to balance this really, you know, energetically draining work as an activist with being able to take care of yourself? And then as you have these conversations, also think about how you might be able to incorporate this kind of self-care into your chapter or at HQ. How can you bring that into more of the structure of the community in those places? So creating that collective self-care as well as what you do as an individual. So go ahead and get together in as small or large of groups as you think would be helpful for this conversation. I don't want to create a lot of restriction around it. And yeah, just spend some time chatting.
1 or 2 more minutes to just wrap up your conversations, and then we're going to come back together. Okay, start to wrap up your conversations. I want us to come back together for at least a few minutes. Amazing. I hate to break up these conversations because I've heard little bits and pieces. They're all so good. Is there anybody that wants to share something with the whole group? I just heard so many great conversations happening. Anybody feel compared to, yeah? Ooh, that's very wise. Comfort zones are expanded through discomfort. We feel uncomfortable because there's an opportunity to grow. Yeah, we have potential for growth and discomfort because you don't want to stay in discomfort. Really good insight. Anything else anyone wants to share? It's okay, I know this is a vulnerable topic, so no pressure. I mean, typically no. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. Angelic. So. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think it can feel intimidating to build this self-care routine, but starting with those bite-sized pieces, and then maybe there will be certain things that you want to do more of and naturally starts to, become a more robust routine. But yeah, creating just those little moments of expectation that I'm taking this time for this activity. And then, yeah, I think we all have that feeling of there's just not enough time to do all the things I need to do in a day. And yeah, so approaching from that angle of, we're going to take these little bite-sized pieces, and then at the end of my day, I'll feel complete. That's great. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Exactly. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, Charlie.
Just building on that, off of that staff notice about I actually keep a which is those things. There's about 7 different things. I don't calculate how many calories and everything else I've burned a day, and I don't know how. It's just simple acknowledgement. So that's
Yeah.
sounds good. And maybe I set goals. And last year I think I started 23 times. This year I already took like this year, as I said, I was that one starts on the refrigerator. It's like something I just see all the time. Time with family is on there. So, but I deliberately tracking those things really can help.
Yeah. Yeah, utilizing tools. Mhm. Full of them. Wonderful. Going from the side of the room. Over here.
I just realized, I guess, naturally, sometimes, what you're talking about us being in environments, and all these thoughts, and doing all these things, all just like straight, power
Mm.
nap, no use, just fall asleep. You don't have to sleep for like 9 minutes. Just falling asleep, and it's like,
Mm. Yeah, rest. Rest is part of resiliency, is huge.
well, rest, yeah, or just an hour nap. It takes like
Yeah.
fall asleep, just like shut off. Start all that energy is all
Yeah, a great reset. It is a superpower for sure. Very envious of that, but but that's awesome. Yeah, and then each one of us, like, this is going to look unique to you. So that's why it's great to talk to people about it. You might get ideas, things to try that you haven't thought of before, and it's okay. Like, take it or leave it based on, you know, what works for you, what feels good to you. But yeah, the more you have these conversations, the more, you know, you'll start coming up with new ideas and things to try. So yeah, thank you all so much for doing these exercises today. And